Hello everyone. Today I thought it would be interesting to discuss a film that I actually did discuss a little while back. However, I discussed it in the sense of what I would have done with the film in order to improve upon it. But I'm going to be discussing today the film in regards to why I believe it is overrated. And as you can see by the title, this film is Avatar. Now, the major issues that I have with Avatar mainly have to deal with really these really core aspects when you're really making a film. At least when you're making a film that tries to touch in on thematic messages of, of imperialism, of conquering other people, that aspects that deal with history and deal with a dark history, to say the least. And I want to kind of explain why I think it really did take a very simplistic direction, and it didn't provide a lot of insight. And I'm going to discuss, too, why I think the film was popular and why it became popular, and why it's probably still one of the most highest-grossing films that has come out recently. The reason why Avatar got a lot of people in the seats initially was because it was released during the wintertime. Now, during the wintertime, usually you don't have a huge amount of competition. Usually every major blockbuster film tries to go for the summer. They try to reach for summer. And there's a lot of doors open for films that come out in the winter, because a lot of people take vacation during the winter, a lot of people have more time to spend during the winter, and also you usually can't go outside much during the winter time if you live in a area where there's a lot of snow or a lot of rain. So as a result, people go to see movies. I always remember back in the day when I was little, when it was raining, that was the day for movies. That was the day to spend indoors and to, snuggle up and watch a movie. That was like really the funnest time to watch a movie was when you can really snuggle up and just feel cozy and relaxed. Whereas if you're watching a film during the summer, you kind of think, why am I watching a film now when it's so, nice outside? So, again, there is a huge appeal for films coming out during the winter. So if you want to make a film and you want to make it successful and you think that it has a lot of potential, put it in winter. Release it during the winter time. Hence, another reason why one of the other overrated films that I've discussed, Frozen, was so popular. It came out in winter. Oh, and it revolved around winter. What do you think people are going to see? That's it. That's what I'm saying. So, that's the initial reason why I think it became very, very popular and made tons of money. Tons of money. Now, the issues with the film that I kind of discussed, that I did mention in my previous video where I explained what I would have done with this film, is that the sides have no dimensions. In case you don't know what Avatar is about, basically it's a movie about the imperialistic humans going to this other planet named Pandora, where there's these Na'vi people who are perfect in every way, shape, or form, and basically they try to destroy them so that they can colonize, so that they can get this unobtainium, I think it's called, and literally the fact that you named your I guess, I don't know if I think it's supposed to have some economic value, but basically, if you're gonna name something unobtainium, that just shows, like if you're gonna name something like that sounds like unobtainable, then you probably need to go back to the drawing board and think of another name for this item, because that's just silly. To name something unobtainium and then expect somehow to get it. I don't know. It's just stupid. So the sides, in my opinion, don't have a lot of dimension. They really do lack this dimensional aspect. Like, they don't show you the negative aspects of, that everybody in the Na'vi is perfect. There's no person who has flaws or makes mistakes. But everything that the military does, everything that the humans do, it's all out of greed, out of selfishness, out of just pure evil, and out of just wanting to just be destructive to no end. And they don't have really a lot of good qualities at all, really, unless you do count maybe the scientists. But then again, they do make the military look really, really really threatening and just very imposing. You know, they don't teach you that the military is really there for defense, especially when we're supposed to act like that this is a very, it's supposed to take place in the future. So, I mean, you'd think that humans would have evolved enough to realize that we don't need to, constantly be on the defense or on the offensive. But again, that's how really everything is portrayed in the film. It's just so unbelievably one-sided, and it's just unbelievable. Like, there's no dimension, and that's a huge issue. At least I think with me personally, because if you're gonna portray one side as completely evil in this kind of scenario, it just doesn't work, because a lot of these instances that are relatively imperialistic, they're fairly political, and politics are fairly complicated, and you need to provide that kind of context, especially when you're making this kind of a film that, again, is supposed to appeal to adults. Hello, like, can you just at least try to provide some depth here? Like, you really should, movie. And then the movie didn't do that. So there's no middle ground, and I think that was a real detriment to this film. But I think that's why people liked it, was because they had a clear good guy and bad guy, and they didn't need to really think all that much, and they could see pretty visual explosions, which I'm going to get to later in regards to the visual style of the film and why I think that was a big crowd pleaser. But yes, the sides don't have dimension, and that's a huge problem story-wise if you're going to try to make a film that revolves around these kinds of concepts. Now, the next thing that I wanted to briefly discuss is how it deals with guilt. This film, and a lot of films that revolve around this kind of imperialistic, racist, or speciesist, I guess you could say, attitude, really doesn't work. I mean, we've already had films that have discussed this, and have discussed it in a lot better way than these kinds of films, like Avatar, that just boil it down to pure simplistic attitudes. Because we have, the racist military buff guy leader who's just evil, and it just feels so unhumane. Like, it doesn't approach things that how an actual person would react or think. So it's too extreme with its villains. It doesn't approach villains through a complex it doesn't provide them a complex personality or dimensions within their brain. Doesn't seem to do that. And I think it was simply a tool used to make us feel guilty. So when, because the Na'vi are so good, and when something bad happens to them, oh, we should feel horrible, and oh, we should feel ashamed, and oh, look at all this imperialism, and oh, look at how it's destroyed. Like we should feel guilty for, what ancestors did to other countries, and that whole guilt trip that has happened constantly in movies. Like, we've seen this guilt feel constantly shoved. It's very, very bothersome, because I think it doesn't try to provide dimensions to the audience, and instead tries to go for simplicity. And in doing so, I think it comes off as kind of just insulting to the one side, by saying that one side is completely evil, and everything that was done in the past, revolves around this kind of imperialistic attitude, and we have no dimensions, and oh, it's just, ooh, that guilt trip that movies do sometimes, I think really, really bothers me. And it's very unnerving to watch these kinds of movies that really do reinforce this aspect of guilt, and that you should feel ashamed for the horrible things that happened in the past, and you should celebrate all other cultures but your own, because you're the evil ones, and I just don't like that trying to make one group of people feel guilty. And that's what it tried to do with the humans. It tried to make them look guilty, like they are the ones that caused all the problems. Humans are the ones that ruined the earth, and their advanced civilization. Like, it was really and again, reinforcing this like anti-technology, like any kind of progress. That just bothered me so much. And you could see that reinforced so heavily within Avatar, especially considering the fact that they tried to make the Na'vi world look pretty and perfect, and with the pretty horse thingies or whatever they were riding, and just those things. You could really tell that they were just going for that kind of aspect, but just in the future. And just because you put it in the future doesn't make it any different. So what I think audiences really got behind with this film was the fact that it has the visuals to please you. It gives you an immersion and an experience. The visuals, they are reinforced with this idea of Pandora, of this pretty planet with this pretty animals and trees and people, and everything is peaceful, and everybody's in harmony, and there is no violence. They're always on the defensive, and I think that's why people were so for this kind of a film, because again, it does try to evolve. It does try to bring you this massive amount of technology that Hollywood is using in order for people to feel pleased with the film. This technology even comes down to like small details, like the Na'vi's eyes. Like, their eyes are very, very open, and very, very big, and they're very pretty. They have like the sort of pretty look, a little bit, but some of the design choices I think were just a little too strange for my taste. But they did try to make them resemble somewhat humanistic traits, with again 2 eyes, and being very open and puppy dog like, and having this kind of maybe more human figure to And I think a lot of people got invested in that because they saw these small visuals and they really felt like, okay, these are the people that we should root for. And yeah, I understand that. I understand that aspect that you need to sort of, present visually a little bit what kind of characters we're going to come across. But at the same time, you should provide at least some dimension, and all of it was just candy-coated with pretty visuals and over-the-top action sequences. That's really what this film had to offer. And I was just so bored throughout the entire movie. I'm so sorry. I just got so bored because I knew what was going to happen. I knew right from the get-go who the villain was, who the hero was, it was going to be completely one-sided, and it basically gave me what I was expecting it to give me, because it pretty much displayed everything out with you within probably the first half hour, I'm guessing, because again, it was a fairly long film. I think like 2-something hours. And let me say this too: Pocahontas, the Disney film that some people like to harp on is not as good, it has more dimensions with the sides than Avatar does. I am not kidding you. On the one hand, you have the Native American culture. They showcase you this in the beginning of the film with, ooh, look at how pretty and peaceful, and But they do emphasize the fact that they're coming back from war. I mean, they were like fighting against another tribe, so it does reinforce these ideas of like, yeah, things are peaceful with us, but we're sort of on either the defensive or offensive. We do fight. Even though they don't showcase it, they show you that it's kind of there. And that that was just a part of history, and it only makes sense that Disney would try to at least show you a little bit of history, even though some people like to harp on the fact that Pocahontas is not all that realistic. So there's that aspect that they put in there. Also, one of the characters that is Native American, Kocoum, who is supposed to be the one that Pocahontas is supposed to marry, he gets outraged when he sees Pocahontas kissing a white man, or kissing John Smith. Like, he goes into a jealously psychotic rage, and he almost kills John Smith, and John Smith was completely defenseless. Like, it wasn't like he was harming Pocahontas, or that he had a weapon. He didn't even have a weapon on him, and Kocoum just completely went crazy, and he tried to kill him. And this shows you that not everybody in the Native American tribe is perfect, and that there are people who have problems dealing with their emotional rage and jealousy. And that was clearly displayed in Pocahontas. Like clearly you saw that this guy, who's supposed to be, I guess, the tribe hero, because again, I guess he was someone that Pocahontas' father, I guess, looked up to and thought that he would make a good match for his daughter. So it only makes sense that that he would have this kind of jealous rage. Like, it's something we could understand, but he takes it into such an extreme degree that it provides dimension. It provides a context, at least. It's not all, ooh, pretty sunshine and rainbows and all that jazz. There's a little bit of rage, and that was displayed there clearly. And again, it's the same from the white man's angle. Not all of the white men in Pocahontas are bad. In fact, I'd argue most of them are good. The only really evil person that is clearly really the evil person in that movie is Radcliffe, but he's the leader. He's the boss. So it only makes sense that people, in particular the settlers, would follow the boss, the leader. So, and again, he does, and he does and the settlers have like at least a noble justification of going after the Native Americans in that movie, because they took one of their own. It's like, oh, if you took one of our own and you're going to try to kill him, well, we're going to come after you because you took one of our people. That's not right. So it's clear that there's dimensions at least set up here, and explanations and motivations into why these two sides would have these feelings. And yeah, they do emphasize within Pocahontas that the settlers, they had a little bit of prejudice towards Native Americans, and that's how it was during the time. So again, there's a little bit of dimensions. Again, it's not fully fleshed out. Again, this is a kid's film. And the ending is so great because at the same time, both sides, drop their weapons. No side defeats the other side. They compromise and solve their issues through talking. So what I've just displayed to you is a way better way of showcasing these kinds of issues that a film like Avatar is trying to go for, but doing it in a such more interesting way, because they provide their characters with both cultures' dimensions. And that was the huge issue with Avatar. There were no dimensions with these characters. And again, I would argue too, though, that even Pocahontas is not perfect. I mean, it does have a lot of flaws, but at least it tried to address things in a more complex manner. But with Avatar, all you get is Na'vi good, military complex of humans evil, with the corporate sellout and the military head honcho, evil versus good battle, good wins. That's all you need to know. Within 2 hours of film, that's literally all that happens. And the one guy, basically is the John Smith of the film, really becomes one of the other culture. And he completely immerses himself in that culture. I mean, at least with Pocahontas, John Smith sort of goes back to where he was, or where he really belongs, which is with his culture, and Pocahontas stays with her culture. I mean, and here it's like, yeah, okay, the Na'vi are completely good. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm in love with one of the people. I will be an avatar for the rest of my days. Because at least I can walk, because unfortunately the main character couldn't walk, and I would totally understand if that's what his reasoning was, but I think more his reasoning was because he liked the culture, and because that culture, again, has no dimensions and is all good, and sees only all the flaws that are with his culture, and so he decides to become one of them. One of the Na'vi. So it's just so plain and simple. It gives you everything that's going to happen within the film, pretty much within the first half hour. I mean, that's how this film plays out. And I think a lot of people just got immersed in the visuals, because the visuals are eye candy. They are that sweet, sweet eye candy that we all love. We love the worlds and the creativity, and yeah, that's all great, but we need to have that backed up. If we don't have that backed up, all you get is just pretty visuals, and that doesn't make a film. That can make an experience if you're trying to create a ride. If you're trying to create Avatar ride, I'd probably have fun on that ride. But if you're trying to make a film about Avatar, I probably wouldn't have fun with the film, because it doesn't provide you with what a film like this should really provide you, and boils it down to everything being rather simplistic. So that's really the biggest issue: the lack of character dimensions, the lack of cultural dimensions. There's just nothing there. It could be argued, though, too, that the scientists are sort of the good humans. But again, like, why should all the scientists be good humans? Well, why can't there be some bad scientists? And they act like all the people who are in business or in the military are horrible, horrible people. Like, that's just ridiculous. I just don't like those generalizations that the movie tries to brush over. And I think the generalizations are really what were the detriment for this film, as in terms of quality. But ultimately, I think that's really all I can say about this film. I understand if there are people who like this film for whatever reason. You have that right to your opinion. I'm not saying that you're wrong. But what I am saying is that I personally don't share that opinion, and the reasons that I've explained are based upon my evidence and my reasoning. But if you do, if you like this film, that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with it. I'd be more than happy to hear anybody's thoughts. But I think it's really overrated, and I think people have come to, more realize this, more or less. And I've kind of changed their thoughts on the film, I think, as time's gone on. But even when I initially saw it, I was like, this is completely overrated. Like, what? Like, it was just hard to sit through. But yeah, I think that's all I can really say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. But until next time, everybody, bye-bye.